Welcome back to Modern Tactical Shooting. Now, the last week of October, President Trump visited Malaysia, and there are a few pictures and a quick little video that kind of took the internet by storm of some 1st Special Forces Group members that were part of Trump's protection detail. Maybe they're a counter-assault force, and they look like they're CRIF members, which is a Crisis Response Force. Now, the mission has kind of gone away officially, but the SF groups, I think, are still keeping that capability alive. So I don't know if they're calling themselves a CRIF anymore. During my time in SF, they were known as the CIF, or Commanders in Extremis Force. Basically, each group has one company where their primary mission is direct action, focusing on hostage rescue. The mission's kind of gone away, but they still exist in some form. But looking at the photos of these guys, I thought, hey, why not do a video on the gear, their personal gear and guns and uniforms that they're using now versus my last combat tour in 2015. So kind of looking at what has changed in the last 10 years in terms of their personal kit, their guns, the things they have on them, and compare and contrast to what I was rolling with in Afghanistan, again, back in 2015. Now, I retired in 2017, but again, it's been 10 years, so I thought that would make a great subject for this video. So let's get into really a 10-year difference between how I rolled in 2015 to what SF guys are utilizing right now. Now, before I break down and cover how these guys compare to how I was rolling, I got to get into, or at least mention, how SF guys get gear. Now, of course, they get a regular Army issue of uniforms and boots and things like that. And they can, but they do not go to a main post central issue facility and sign for regular Army gear. They could if they wanted to, but SF guys do not. That's why you don't see SF guys rocking taps and giant Army rucksacks, the things that the regular Army uses. Because at each group has their own CIF or central issue facility, and that's where they get their group-specific gear, all the tactical nylon, their helmets, ballistic plates, and things like that. And then when they actually get to their team, they can be issued more gear. And at the team level, there's really 2 ways to get gear, but it's really broken down by three different levels, and that's unit gear. And unit gear could come from the battalion level, it could come from the company level, or in some cases, it could come from the team level. So these are all unit purchases based on shortfalls that they've deemed the teams have, or it could be that a team has a certain mission, and to meet that mission, they need certain pieces of gear, so they get funding that way. So I'll generically refer to all 3 levels as just a unit purchase. It's kind of hard to tell if it was battalion, company, or team level. It's kind of really impossible to tell, but I can tell which is really group issued items and which is unit purchased. And of course, the last way that guys still rely on to get gear is they do personal purchases. It happened when I was in SF throughout my entire career, and I can tell just by these photos it's still going on by certain items. So now that I covered the different ways in which teams get gear, let's get into a compare and contrast. I'm mainly going to use this photo right here. This is me down in Helmand with ODA 3122, again back in 2015, my last tour, and I'll compare it with the photos of these guys right here. So let's start at the top and we'll work our way down. Now, while I will mainly be using these photos of these guys right here, again, members of Trump's protection detail, I am going to reference a few other modern photos of SF guys. You can actually go to Facebook. Each SF group runs their own Facebook page. So if you want to see what kind of guns and gear guys are using, you can just type in a group and look for them on Facebook. But looking at this photo right here, let's start at the top. Now, he is wearing... that is a 2nd generation Ops Core helmet. It's their fast SF version, which is a newer helmet than what I had. In fact, Special Forces got the Ops Core helmet around 2014. Rangers and Air Force JTACs and CTT guys, they got the Ops Core around 2011, 2012. We didn't see it till 2014. In fact, DEA fast teams and FBI HRT, they got the Ops Core helmet before SF also. So just about everybody got the 1st generation Ops Core before normal SF teams did. But it's good to see they have a 2nd generation Ops Core helmet right now. Now, you won't see any photos of me with an OpsCore helmet because while they do offer a few different sizes, the medium was too small for my head and the large was too large. So I ran with a high-cut ACH helmet. Matter of fact, it's right here. It's this very helmet. Now, this started as a normal ACH, and I actually cut it myself. I made it a gunfighter cut, and I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh my God, you compromised the helmet. Not so much. That's not how this layered Kevlar works in the helmet. But prior to the OpsCore, plenty of guys either purchased their own gunfighter cut ACHs or they kind of made their own. First time I saw somebody cutting on a helmet were some Navy SEALs at Mid-South way back in 2006. But yeah, you can cut it, seal it up with the Marine Corps epoxy. I wore this for 2 tours. It's solid, and you're not really going to compromise the integrity. After all, when they make these ACH helmets, the last thing they do after it's already been formed and made is they drill a hole in the front so you can mount your nods plate to. So it comes with a pre-drilled hole. So they're drilling into this stuff too. But yeah, this is my helmet right here. So yes, we had OpsCores around 2014, and it appears they have their newer generation one. Now you'll find plenty of photos of guys with the first generation of OpsCore helmets still, just because it can take years for a new piece of gear or new item to make it all the teams. Case in point, the Rangers and Air Force TAC-Ps, they had the OpsCore around 2011, 2012, and we didn't see it really till 2014. Now, on his helmet, he looks like he has the same Peltor adapters that I have right here, even though in this photo you can see a different version. This is a new style, which I don't really care for. They fold out and then they kind of pop back in against the side of your head. But with these Peltor adapters, they are a unit purchase item or a personal item. I actually had to buy my own Peltor adapters. These are $70 at the time, way back in like 2014, because yes, they'll issue you a $2,000 OpsCore helmet, and the comms capable Peltors or whatever brand they're running right now, I'm sure they're almost $1,000 a pop. Yet Special Forces is too cheap to include the actual adapters for your hearing protection and comms. So they have to do unit funds or guys buy their own. Now, these aren't military Peltors. I replaced the issued ones with just these civilian ones. Now, all these guys are wearing the Crye AVS plate carrier or body armor, and we got that back around 2014 also. And the Crye AVS, I don't like it. The plastic buckle that keeps it together is right on your left-hand shoulder, and I'm a lefty, right where the buttstock of my rifle would go. And it's kind of like a system. It has this internal harness to make it wear better or make it more into full-blown body armor than just a plate carrier. And it's not popular at all. And most guys strip it down to its simplest form, which is just a plate carrier, which is exactly how these guys have theirs rigged, totally stripped down. Back in 2014, we wanted the Crye JPC, which came out around, I think, 2011, 2012. We were screaming for JPCs, and we ended up with the Crye AVS, along with the Rangers. They're stuck with it also. The problem is, even stripped down in its simplest form, you can see the plate pocket. It's kind of square. It doesn't conform to your body like the Crye JPC does. Now, I wore my own body armor. It's right here. That is from ATS. It's the ATS Aegis plate carrier. I rocked that back in 2014 and 2015, so I have 2 tours on it. It's cut, similar cut to a JPC, and after I got one, multiple members of my team, they went out and got their own ATS plate carriers also. Now, they won't spend unit funds on plate carriers because they're like, hey, you already issued one, so we're not going to use money for it. So if you see any SF guys with anything other than a Crye AVS, it means they spent their personal money on it, because that's just one thing they won't use unit funds for. But the AVS has been around since 2014, so it's 11 years old. I think they should move on to something else. And I guarantee if you ask most Green Berets, hey, do you want to stick with the AVS or would you like a JPC or something else? I bet you 90% would go for a Crye JPC or some other plate carrier. I was never pleased with it, and that's why I wore my own. In fact, in this photo from Hellman, it's my own body armor, my own helmet, and my own belt, which I'll talk about belts here next. Now, it's easy to tell that these guys are CRIF guys or former CRIF guys, whatever they're calling them now. If you look at that American flag patch, it has a very particular skull on there, and that is the skull or the symbol for the SIFs or CRIFs. It's also the symbol of the schoolhouse, which is Sephardic, an 8-week shooting course you must pass to be able to go to a CRIF. Now, actually, I was a Sephardic instructor for 2 years. Here's one of my old instructor hats. It has the same symbol. So only CRIF guys are going to wear this symbol, or Green Berets that actually graduated Sephardic. You won't see Green Berets that haven't been through that course wear this skull and have this symbol on their kit. So they all have that as their flag patch. So that's how you can tell they're definitely the CRIF guys, or whatever they're calling themselves now, but DA-focused Green Berets. Also, before I talk about the belts they're wearing, let's talk uniforms. Now, it looks like for this protection detail, they had the unit purchase them matching black rugby-style shirts and, of course, those khaki pants. That's not normally what SF guys wear. But let's talk about rugby polos or rugby shirts. SF guys don't get them issued normally. Now, Ranger Regiment does. My son served in Ranger Regiment, and they got issued some short-sleeve rugby polos. I don't remember if they were like a flat dark earth or a multicam, but yeah, SF guys don't get them. But we do get extra uniforms on top of those Army issue OCPs. Ours were made by Patagonia, kind of an improved combat uniform. Of course, Tier 1 units, they get uniforms by Cry, but I don't want to say SF went cheap, but we just went with Patagonia's. Different material, I guess a lighter weight material. You get 2 pairs of pants, 2 tops, and then 2 combat shirts, which is never enough for Afghanistan. And I love the pants. I love the layout of the pockets. And they have these little circle slots in the knees to put these little plastic knee pads to attach to, but honestly, they kind of suck, so nobody uses them. But the problem with Patagonia is, at least with the pants, the way they design the crotch, most guys would rip their crotches out halfway through a tour. It seems like the pants never lasted. And again, they only give you 2 sets. There's a 7-day work week, but you only got 2 sets of Patagonias, and those were expected to last you an entire tour in Afghanistan. Now, I got to keep mine. They made me turn in the combat shirts for some reason, but at least I got to keep the tops and the bottoms. Now, they've moved away from Patagonia. Talking to a buddy of mine, he was issued some new uniforms from Forge Line Solutions. He just says they're a lot more comfortable than the Patagonias. I'm sure there's still a lot of Patagonias out there, but it seems they have a new uniform supplier. And these uniforms, you don't have to blouse the boots. They're not made to. But SF guys can only wear them when they're out training or when they're actually out on missions. They can't wear them in garrison. In garrison, they got to wear normal Army boots, and they got to wear normal OCP uniforms. And I'll probably talk about footwear last. But yeah, they moved on from the Patagonias that were the special uniform of my era. All right, now let's talk belts. During my time, the padded war belt was king. So this is not the exact same padded war belt I had during my deployment. I actually had a multicam one, but I gave it away. But all the pouches are basically the same pouches that I have on this belt right here. And I ran it with low profile suspenders so it could support my body armor. The weight would be distributed not just on my shoulders and back, but also on my hips. So I really love a padded war belt. I think it's the most comfortable belt out there. Again, I'm an ATS guy. That's an ATS padded war belt. But yeah, war belts were the belt of my era. And sometime, I would say around 2017, as I was getting out, the inner-outer belt combo has really become the new norm for tactical belts. So I have 2 examples of some tactical inner-outer belts. This is an ATS enfilade, and this is a core belt. And I'm a fan of this style of belt. It's great for the range. A very popular brand with the guys, I hear from an SF buddy of mine, is Ronin. And Ronin was started by a former first group guy, and his belts are very popular with SF guys. And belts and holsters are a very personal thing, and they're not issued at the group level. So if they don't get them unit purchased at a lower level, then they have to buy their own. And a lot of guys end up buying their own belts and holsters. So these are unit purchased or their own. Same thing with their holsters. Those are some model of Safariland ALS for their optic-equipped guns. And SF is weak at getting the best holsters for the guys. Years ago, during the invasion of Iraq, we wanted the SLS Safariland holster. I ended up buying my own because it took a while for them to become an issued item. And then that would repeat itself around 2010, 2011, when Safariland came out with the ALS holster. Again, it was the same thing. We were like, hey, we'd like these ALS holsters. And at first, and this was in 4th Battalion 3rd Group, at the unit level, at the company level, they were like, oh yeah, we're going to get you new holsters. And the company did buy new holsters for everybody, but it was the Serpa holster. And they did it because, oh, look, we can save all this money. They're $35 a pop versus over $100 for the ALS. So our unit, in that case, went cheap. But ALS holsters would be worked into the system. As you can see, I'm rocking one right here. This was a unit issued one. But again, some of these guys might have purchased their own. And on their belts, you can see these angled magazine pouches. They might be Blue Alpha brand. This comes straight from the competitive shooting world, angled magazine pouches. They're a staple of USPSA competitive shooting, but really I'd say in the last 6 or 7 years, they've made their way into the tactical realm, and they are the new standard. So what you see with probably a lot of SF guys, like with these gentlemen right here, they've got an inner outer belt. They're rocking angled pistol mag pouches. They'll have 1 or 2 spare rifle mags on their belt, and then usually a mini IFAC is pretty much the standard loadout. I see plenty of Green Berets that shoot matches around Fort Bragg, 2-gun, 3-gun, and USPSA, and they're all rocking the same style of tactical inner outer belt. So that's cool to see. So yes, my war belt, I would be made fun of if I showed up on a team wearing one of those right now. Now, before I talk about their firearms, let me cover footwear. And the bottom line, if you want high-performance soldiers, they need to have high-performance footwear, and the Army-issued boot is just dismal. It's an archaic, outdated design. Modern hiking shoes really provide the footwear that SF guys need. I ran Merrells during my time. This photo right here, these are all Merrells. Most of them are low-cut. I have 1 pair of winter Merrells, but I would not recommend Merrells today. In 2018, there was a company reorganization, and you could see there was a pretty good drop-off in the quality of Merrells, and plus they changed their toe box, so they don't fit me as well as they used to. And when I was in the last few years, you saw a lot of guys going over to Solomon's and other brands. So yes, most SF guys on missions and in training are going to wear their own footwear. It's not allowed in garrison. They have to wear Army boots. And there's this overblown perception about, well, if you don't wear Army boots that ride up high, you're not going to have ankle protection, and you could twist your ankle with all these low-cut hiking shoes. Jump boots, the heavy leather jump boots from like World War II, they might provide some ankle stiffness for airborne operations, but modern Army combat boots are very soft. It's canvas and soft leather, and really the high top boot was designed, if you go back to World War II, to keep debris out, not so much for ankle support. And it's very overblown, this notion. I got criticized all the time. People are like, oh my God, you're wearing low-top hiking shoes. Don't SF guys suffer a lot of ankle injuries? And actually, there's data, if people look into it, definitely not. If you look at all the guys who deployed in Afghanistan, non-combat ankle injuries is very rare. I didn't run across anybody with any ankle injuries out on missions. I'm sure it happened. I'm sure some guys fell and twisted their ankle. But there was probably more guys getting injured in the gym doing box jumps on crappy made wooden boxes and hurting themselves than ankle injuries from wearing low-top hiking shoes. I just didn't see it. And again, you want high-performance soldiers, you need high-performance footwear. I can't tell in the photos what brands these guys are running, but I'm sure you're going to see all types. And again, Solomon started to become very popular as I was retiring. All right, let's get into firearms. Now, looking at the photo, some of them are rocking the SIG, I guess M17, and this one guy, I don't know if it's a Glock 19 or a Glock 17. Now, SF would start transitioning to getting G19s way back in 2006. I have a full video on the G19, but the main pistol during my time was the M9 Beretta. And in 2015, we did not have enough G19s for everybody on the team. So me being an older guy, and I started my my career in the M9, I chose to rock an M9, and optics were not a thing. SF would not start going pistol red dot till after I retired in 2017, and then that became the norm with the G19 with an issued Trijicon RMR. But when the Army adopted the M17 in 2017, that officially replaced the M9 Beretta. So SF teams all got SIGs to replace their M9s. The Glocks on ODAs, those are supplements to their pistols. So yeah, the SIG M17 is kind of the official pistol. And I was told by a buddy way back in 2019, they're holding on to their Glocks, but as the Glocks break and go down, they're not being replaced. So they're slowly being phased out of service again as they break and go down. And I'm sure what you're seeing here, this guy's probably a more senior guy in the team, and he's like, hey, I want to take that Glock. While the newer guys that show up on teams, they're probably rolling with the SIG. But kind of the same thing I'm sure is happening. That was happening when I was on a team. Us old guys, we were fine with the M9. All the new, younger guys wanted the Glocks, and that's probably happening now. Your older guys are desperately holding on to those Glocks, while the newer guys are all rolling with the M17 with an optic. And the Trijicon RMR is what's issued to SF guys. But I know some SF guys have used unit funds to get like Delta Point Pros and some other pistol optics out there. Now, if you look at their pistols, this one guy has Terran Tactical base pads. Those are probably personally purchased along with those Glock mags. Glock mags are always in demand, so a lot of guys buy their own mags. And this one guy has an extended flared mag well on his SIG, and that's probably personally purchased also. But yeah, red dots on pistols are the norm for most SF guys. All right, let's talk rifles. And if you know my channel, you know this is a clone of my work gun from 2015, a Block 2 with a front sight post, and my personally purchased VCOG, and I have an offset red dot on the other side. Buttstock, extended magazine well, the AFG, a lot of these accessories are the ones I use downrange. Now, of course, in 2017, I heard about the URGI program starting, and then, of course, I retired, and it was implemented around 2018, 2019. Now, Special Forces soldiers get issued 2 uppers. They get a 14.5, and during my time, it was a Mark 18 with a 10.3. And stuff takes a while to get into service. So in 2015, we still had the RIS-2 with front sight post. And as you can see in this photo right here, all classic Block 2 items. But it was halfway through our tour when they were like, hey, we have the new non-front sight post. Do you want to move to that? I already had a good 0 on the VCOG, and I was like, why try an unproven upper? But the non-front sight post version had already been in use, again, with the Rangers and TACPs and CTTs, probably 2011, 2012, and it wasn't until 2015 that we saw those RIS-2s with non-front sight post. But SF has moved on. They still get issued 2 URGI uppers, 14.51, and I believe the shorty is an 11.5, which all these guys appear to be rocking in the photo. And of course, the difference, really, they have an M-block handguard. It's a mid-length versus rifle-length gas system. Now, it was around 2013. We went to Geisley Super Select Fire triggers. I'm sure they're rocking the same ones. And as far as optics, it looks like they're still running. A majority of their optics are the same Block 2 optics that were around when I was on a team. Looks like the same model EOTech. Looks like they still have LA5 and LA15 lasers. You'll see a lot of different lights. The issued light was a stream light. These guys look like they have some sort of Surefire, which usually are unit purchased. And it was around 2019, the SF adopted the SIG 1-6. Now, none of these guys have one on their rifle right here, but let's talk about that SIG 1-6 scope. Now, as far back as 2015, SF was looking to adopt an LPVO. Most of the guys wanted the Vortex Razor in 1-6. And then as I was getting out, and it was around 2018, they actually did trials. And of course, they ended up adopting the SIG 1-6. And I talked to one of the guys who took part in that, and he said the SIG scope was third in performance, but first in being the cheapest for purchase. So go figure, that's what they went with. And honestly, by 2018, really 1-6 scopes are totally out of date. Of course, the Marines went with a 1-8. Vortex offers now a 1-10. It's been out forever. And when they first got those scopes finally to the teams around 2019, 2020, I was notified by a lot of buddies. A lot of them within the first 3 months had a ton of issues of breaking. They had some quality control issues with those scopes. Now, here we are 5 or 6 years later. I'm sure they worked them all out, but they aren't that popular with the guys. And again, a 1-6 optic is really totally out of date by 2025 when 1-8s and 1-10s that are basically the same size are out there in use. So I know guys aren't happy with that 1-6. Myself, I rocked this 1-6 VCOG, and I would definitely take this over that SIG scope. So most of these guys are rocking EOTechs. And really, now that we're not fighting at those extended ranges in Afghanistan, which is really the only place on the planet where you'll be trying to stretch the distance of your M4 out to 500 and 600 yards in a gunfight, seems a lot of guys are plenty happy running that EOTech. But there are a lot of other optics out there that I know are purchased using unit funds. You'll see some Aimpoint T2s or modern Aimpoint. This photo right here, this guy has a Trichicon MRO and a riser. So that's a unit issued item, or maybe he purchased it himself. So there's a lot of that going on. Guys purchase their own optics when I was back in SF. Now, flip to side magnifiers. I will tell you, if they're EOTech brand, if you see them with an SF guy, they were probably purchased at the unit level. It's not part of your old SOPMOD Block 2 or whatever they're calling it now program. And if you see other ones out there, they're probably personally purchased, like in this photo right here. I believe this is a Vortex flip to the side magnifier. They don't get issued to SF guys unless, of course, the unit decides they want to buy them, which is kind of a bummer. You'd think they'd finally just make that a standard item with SF guys. All right, lastly, let's talk nods and radios. Now, I bet these are PVS-31, the white phosphor, which are awesome. They're incredible. Back in my day, we just had the PVS-31s, the normal green ones. And actually, we still had some PVS-15s on the team. But in 2015, our CTT or JTAC, he had the PVS-31 white phosphor. So again, it's taken a while for SF to get them. But those pretty much are the standard on all teams. I rocked a 152 radio, and I know they moved on to the 163, which probably has a lot better range and more capabilities within the radio itself. So those are 2 updates that these guys also have in their kit. So there it is. Those are the items that these guys are rocking. Now, the question is, how does my stuff compare? If I were to show up on a modern SF ODA now with my full 2015 loadout, how would I do? Well, really, besides being made fun of probably for my cheap helmet and showing up with a padded war belt, I think my gear would hold up. Matter of fact, my plate carrier, my ATS Aegis plate carrier from 2014 when I first got it, still works just great, and I think it's still a better plate carrier than the Cry AVS that guys get issued. And my Block 2, because I am running my own VCOG on here, this has the same capability of the URGI as it stands right now. This just has a rifle-length gas system. Really, the big change is guys wanted that M-LOK rail, and I like a quad rail that doesn't really affect me. So really, the only difference would really be with the nods, the radio, and in my era, pistol equipped with red dots really wasn't a thing yet. So I would be outmatched there. But I think I'd actually be able to hold my own with my 2015 loadout against a modern Green Beret. But hey, what do you think? I'd love to know what you think down in the comments. Am I well past my prime with my kit loadout and I'm completely missed the mark? I'd love to know what you guys think. So there it is, the 10-year difference between my loadout and what guys are currently running in Special Forces. Now, it'll be super interesting to see what they're rocking 10 years from now in 2035. I'm going to let you know right now, I'm going to be greatly disappointed if they are not rocking pulse rifles and smart guns by 2035. I will be hugely disappointed. That's totally what I expect to see. But like all my videos, hopefully you found this informative and entertaining. I'm Jeff Gerwich. Thanks for watching.